this episode of the bonus round, we peer into the future of the industry to see how to fix some of the problems we've dug up this month. We're joined by Michael Pachter, Jessica Chobot, and Kyle Bossman to dive into the problems plaguing us now and find a brighter gaming future.
We need to not take this art form so seriously. I think we should take it for exactly what it is, which is rich entertainment.
That's all right now in the bonus round. Hey guys, we're back here on the bonus round, our final segment this month with Michael Pachter, Jessica Chobot, and Kyle Bossman. So all month we've been talking about the state of the industry and the relationship between gamers, media, the publishers. So what can we take away from all this in terms of how the industry can do better, Michael? I mean, when you think of things like the Microsoft DRM fiasco or some things like that, is the industry learning anything? Because I think the industry is changing. I felt that gamers have certainly been much more vocal over the past few years on the internet, and that may be because of the rise of things like Twitter and Facebook and the ability for gamers to express themselves more publicly. But what do you think? What's the takeaway from all this? Do you think is the industry changing?
I mean, ultimately, the industry is the games and not the consoles.
Right.
And I think that Microsoft probably took itself a bit too seriously and made some decisions that it knows better. And so
Even though you warned them.
Yeah, I did warn them, and I think Sony might have been going down that path, but they had backlash when their patent application was unveiled last year, and they backed off. But I think ultimately, this comes down to entertainment, and if we get experiences with these consoles where we really get hour after hour of enjoyment, then life is good. And I think that we need to not take this art form so seriously. I think we should take it for exactly what it is, which is rich entertainment. And
it's coming from the numbers guy, the guy who thinks about the business.
But the cool thing is that
some people say, you look at the DRM and people say, oh, Microsoft, they're going to now, publishers are going to make more money now off used games.
Yeah,
you saw Cliffy B saying on Twitter and things like that, that's like, well, this is the death of AAA games because publishers can't afford to make these games anymore.
I think the guy who creates the best entertainment experience for a reasonable investment and sells more units is the guy who makes the most money.
Right.
And that the only way anybody can make money in this industry is to delight consumers and get those consumers to part with their hard-earned money. So fortunately, we spend billions, and I mean hundreds of billions of dollars entertaining ourselves. And the video game industry is only a small slice of that, and that's what we were talking about last episode. How are they going to broaden the appeal to get even more people to pay for it? That's where it's headed, and so I like that we have the vocal hardcore who says the way it's got to be, but they should remember that they're a small slice of that addressable market. They are the opinion shapers. They're the guys who stand in line at midnight to see the movie debut before it's even been reviewed, and they're going to tell all their friends at the water cooler the next day to see it. They're the same, for games as those people are for movies, but ultimately this is entertainment. And it's a business, and the guys in the business, and let's throw Cliffy back in there, they know how to delight, which is why they get paid a lot.
Right.
And I don't think Cliffy is a business guy. I don't think Alex Rogopoulos is a business guy, but he knows how to delight people.
Right.
The only one of all of them is Gabe.
Right.
Gabe is a numbers guy.
Yeah.
Gabe gets the whole business thing. Gabe, I would take a lecture from on business because I think Gabe gets it. All
right, we'll have to arrange that. Maybe that'll be do that panel at PAX or something like that.
Has Gabe ever said anything about used games? Obviously not, right?
I don't think he
it's not
has
even,
really. I
it's
mean,
not
well,
even a part
you
of
can
his
look at
world.
well, you can look at Steam though, right, as an
Yeah.
expression potentially of how they feel about used games. But I mean, he would say in some ways it's more like a digital system, right, on Steam. Where I mean, that's part of the funny thing is like with Steam, you can't you buy your game and there's not this controversy about used games and trading, but they would say part of it is because of the pricing.
But he had Portal and Left 4 Dead on consoles, and there are plenty of used copies of those floating around. And I've never heard Gabe go, oh shit, we would have only made $10 billion last week instead of,
No,
$9
but-
billion or $9 billion.
Right, but I
whatever.
think part of it is he would say, on Steam, you look at the way they do pricing on games, and there's so many cool sales and things like that. And a lot of people said to me, it's like, well, on Steam, you don't even worry about used games because you can get a game for $9 or $5.
And it's sort of
things
like
that.
ripping off music, and once songs came down to 99 cents back in 2001, people said, I'm not going to rip it off anymore because
It's cheap enough, so I would do that. So I think their solution to some of that is saying like, hey, games are going to be much more accessible. And even some people said to me with Microsoft, they would have come out and said, hey, we have this whole new digital system. Here's how it's all going to be set up. And by the way, because of this, your games are going to be $10 cheaper now.
Yeah,
Gamers would have been like, hey, that's a huge benefit.
but that's not going to happen, and that's the problem. See, the hit from used is only in the first couple of months after the release of the game, and it's maybe 3 or 4% of sales, and then beyond that first 3 or 4 months, used games provide currency to buy new games. So nobody thinks it's really more than a 3 or 4% hit. Talking about $1.50, $2, $3, and maybe they would never discount a game by $2 or $3, and because you bought a digital copy, and the guy who trades it in thinks it's worth 10 or 15 bucks when he trades it in. So you're never going to get the pricing right, ever.
You would argue on Steam now you see games. I mean, I buy great games that are down to $20 or things like that. I mean, after a window.
Not proximate in time to when they launch, right? After a year or two, when no one else is buying it, sure, they'll play around with sales, but not early on. And remember, you've got Walmart doing point-of-sale promotion and GameStop doing point-of-sale promotion, putting it in newspaper circulars or having a stand outside the games, wherever Walmart has games. I haven't seen that in a long time. And they're promoting games at $60. Nobody's going to undercut what Walmart charges. Right. So Walmart will say if you're selling Activision, if you're selling it for $50 as a download, then you better sell it to us so we can sell it for $50. You have to take $10 less. Activision won't.
See, this is all the inside business scoop that we get from your package. All right, guys, hold that thought. We're going to be right back here in the bonus round.